When I booked the cruise for our 10th anniversary, I thought it would be a fresh start, a way to rekindle what Emily and I had somehow lost in the monotony of routine and distance. 10 years of marriage had turned from laughter and whispers to polite nods and forced smiles. Still, I believed that somewhere beneath the silence, the woman I fell in love with was still there. The 7-day Mediterranean cruise was supposed to be our chance to find each other again. But instead, it revealed who she really was. It started beautifully. The first 2 days were perfect, the sunsets, the champagne, the salt in the air. Emily was radiant, taking endless photos by the railing, laughing more than she had in years. She said she felt alive again, and I believed her. I didn't realize that the reason for her newfound glow wasn't me at all. On the third night, I started feeling off. Maybe it was the seafood or the heat, but by midnight, I was shivering and sweating at the same time. The ship's doctor said it was food poisoning and told me to rest. Emily looked worried, or at least she pretended to. She stayed with me for a few hours, held my hand, kissed my forehead, and promised she wouldn't go far. "Just some fresh air," she said. "You rest, baby. I'll be right back." She didn't come back that night. I woke up the next morning alone. My head was pounding, my body weak, but my heart ached more than my stomach. When I called her, she didn't answer. When she finally returned around noon, she smelled faintly of alcohol and perfume, not hers. I asked where she'd been, and she said she'd gone dancing with some passengers. Her tone was too casual, too rehearsed. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But things only got stranger. That night, I woke up again, disoriented, and noticed her phone buzzing on the table. A message popped up from an unsaved number. "Same spot tonight?" The captain said its fine winking face. My chest tightened. I scrolled through her messages and saw everything: her flirtations with a group of crew members, talks about fun, and her excitement about a private party below deck. I didn't want to believe what I was reading. I felt dizzy, sick in a way no medicine could fix. I sat there, shaking, reading message after message, each one stripping away another piece of the woman I thought I knew. That night, while she claimed she was checking on the deck, I decided to see the truth with my own eyes. I dragged myself out of bed, barely steady, and followed her down the hall. She slipped through a crew-only door with a sly glance over her shoulder. My heart hammered. I waited, counting minutes that felt like hours. Finally, I found a narrow window along the hallway, and what I saw inside shattered everything I ever believed about her. There she was as my wife, laughing, dancing, drinking with a group of 6 men, 5 sailors and the ship's captain. Her dress was low, her laughter too loud, her hand on the captain's chest. I froze, unable to move. The music muffled everything but the pounding in my ears. Then, as the scene grew wilder, one of the sailors grabbed her hand, and she didn't resist. They disappeared into a side room, and my stomach turned. I stumbled back to my cabin, my world spinning. I couldn't scream, couldn't cry. I just sat there, waiting for her to return, and when she did, hours later, she smelled like a stranger again. She smiled faintly, acting innocent, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "You feeling better, babe?" I nodded, hiding everything behind a numb stare. For the rest of the cruise, I said nothing. I played the role she expected, the quiet, loving husband. She thought she'd fooled me. She thought I'd never know. But every glance, every touch made me sick. And by the time we returned home, my love for her had already died. The day after we landed, I went to a lawyer. I gathered every piece of evidence, the screenshots, the photos, the message logs I'd quietly copied from her phone. I filed for divorce the next morning. I didn't confront her yet, not until the papers were ready. Then, 2 weeks later, I invited her to dinner, her favorite restaurant. She came dressed beautifully, smiling as if everything was normal. "It feels nice to be back," she said. "That trip was unforgettable." I smiled coldly. "Yeah," I said. "Unforgettable." Halfway through dinner, I slid an envelope across the table. She frowned and opened it, her face drained of color the moment she saw the papers. "James, what is this?" "Divorce," I said simply. She blinked rapidly, trembling. "You're joking." "Why?" "We were doing better." I leaned forward. "You really think I didn't know, Emily? The messages. The captain. The sailors. You didn't even bother deleting everything." Her eyes widened in horror. "James, I can explain, it was." "Don't bother," I interrupted coldly. "You already did enough explaining on that ship." She broke down right there, whispering, "I was drunk, it was stupid, it meant nothing." I stood up. "It meant everything," I said quietly. "Because that was the night our marriage died." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Please," she begged, "we can fix this." I looked at her one last time. "You can't fix something you drowned yourself." I walked out and never looked back. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that she'd tried to reach out to one of the crew members, the same men she'd betrayed me with, but none of them responded. Apparently, rumors about her escapades had spread through the crew's staff, and she'd become a running joke among them. Karma, I guess, had booked its own ticket. As for me, I rebuilt. Slowly. I poured my time into work, travel, and rediscovering what peace felt like. I never remarried, not because I couldn't love again, but because I learned something priceless: trust, once shattered, never glues back the same way. Every year since, when the date of our anniversary rolls around, I take a small trip alone. Not to mourn her, but to celebrate freedom. The sea still calls to me, but this time, it's my escape, not my prison. Because on that anniversary cruise, while I lay sick below deck, she threw away everything we'd built for a few drunken hours of attention. And 2 years later, when she saw me living better than ever, she finally understood the weight of what she'd lost. She thought she was sailing toward freedom. But she only ended up drowning in her own betrayal.